and get picked up by a big tech company.
What Mike has built and what this team brings is it's AAA class.
And I thought, this is the model that we're going to grow Genus.
I would first look to contract out to creating coding careers where you're going to get experienced technology. The pipeline into your company for long-term growth.
So you're better off starting where you can groom and mentor and shape, people for your organization.
I've worked with coding teams for many years, and this was the first one that just picked up where we were and started continuing like they built it.
We're happy to have them in the building and see what they're developing. This is the second location. They started out with us in our building in Escondido.
Creating Coding Careers has this incredible combination of subject matter expertise in the technology field and what is actually required to do the job, as well as this network of employer partners who believe in the mission on changing what technologists
We are back, and I am very excited about the guest that we have on today. I don't remember exactly when it was because I feel like we're still in COVID time, but I remember walking around the first day of now 2023, and I saw somebody that caught my eye, and it walked by, and I was like, "Whoa, that's Jace!" I said, "Whoa, Jace, what's going on, man?" And then, a little while later, about an hour or two later, watching this rock star CEO organization, Bill McDermott on stage. A few hours after that, I'm walking around the floor and I bump into Collie and Chris Rogers. And I'm just seeing all these people that I'd never seen in person before. And by the middle of the day, I was both exhausted and I felt like I had met everybody, taking snap pictures with the mayor, ServiceNow, like everybody. But the one person that I did not get any FaceTime with, that we are going to get some FaceTime with today, is my man that we're bringing on. You all know him and love him. I will let him do all of the other accolades and intros as I bring up my co-host Alex. But I just want to tell you how excited I am to have this individual join us, talk a little bit, kick some knowledge about your and I favorite platform out there, ServiceNow, the ecosystem, opportunities, and again, what could be better than ending the week with this world-renowned individual that I didn't meet at Knowledge 23, but we're going to get into it today. Let me bring up my co-host. I think it's going to be Alex Martinez. And Alex, please, would you do your best to try and introduce this this individual, this human?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give us an intro, and then I'm going to bring my buddy Deontay on to give an intro to our next guest speaker. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on an exciting Friday. I'm your co-host, Alex Martinez, and with me, as always, is Deontay Hall Collins. We work here at Coding Careers, where we are committed to helping people transition into ServiceNow and software engineering roles. And part of that is bringing amazing guests like the one we have right now. Deontay, would you do the honors and let us know who's coming up next?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he needs no introduction much. And I only say that because I know that a lot of you guys definitely have seen his name around, have seen him in a JavaScript video, have seen his podcast, just to name off a few of the things that this guy has done. I am very honored to introduce Chuck Tomasi, and I definitely want to let him give himself his own accolades as well as mine on top of him. Welcome in, Chuck.
I keep looking around for this superstar you're talking about. I don't know who this person is.
Oh, definitely you, man. Definitely you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It is an honor. I know you've had some great names and some wonderful people on your show before. I was just looking through the roster going, wow, that's a pretty good lineup. So I'm honored to be among them.
Chuck, it's great to have you on the show. Like always, I always peruse the people's LinkedIn profiles to get to know them a little bit more before we bring them on. And it looks like you've been in tech from the very beginning. Can you walk us through your journey, how you got into tech, and then follow that up with how you got into ServiceNow?
How much time you got? The short story is I got introduced to computers and tech in the early 80s, and I was all over it. I was one of those kids that would stay after school, cracking the book open, typing in the programs, modifying them a little bit just to see what would happen. And also building out, I recognized an early age, building out that community, that network of friends who, frankly, I felt they knew more than I did. So I wanted to hang around and learn from them. I did not have a computer at home, so I wanted to hang around with the kid that did and get into that. We formed our first computer club back in, 82, 83. For some reason, they voted me president. I'm not sure why. And that's when I decided, I'm going to get a computer science degree in college. I didn't even know what that word meant. I just said, I want to do something that involves programming and cool stuff. So my college degree is computer science major with an electronics minor, which I think is a wonderful way to get into interfacing in the hardware. Coincidentally, my brother was a flip. He had the hardware major with the software minor. So we had lots of interesting discussions. And he also was instrumental in getting me my first job out of college. I started as a software developer writing, get this, DOS software in C that communicated with pay telephones legally. It was a phone company that I worked for. So we worked very closely together for almost 20 years for an electronics company. And my wife was also in the same company. She worked more on the business side, doing the ERP system management and whatnot. Along the way, I got lots of wonderful experience as a developer, system administrator, Unix, networking, all kinds of these wonderful skills. Very happy to be there. Culminating in 2008 when they were repatriating the help desk. Our company had gone through a number of mergers and acquisitions. And as such, we had about 4 or 5 disparate ticketing systems around the globe that didn't talk to each other, made for a terrible employee experience, and just was awful. So they said, this outsourcing thing isn't working. We're going to bring it back in. Who wants to lead that? And I went, me, I do. And people looked at me, to quote the Christmas story, they looked at me like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears. It was, who wants to be a help desk manager? I said, this is like a distressed home. You don't have to do a whole lot to increase its value. So I'm thinking along those lines. We did some assessment, and my favorite horse in the race was ServiceNow. The team agreed through various demos and assessments and whatnot, and we landed on ServiceNow, and it went live on January 12th, 2009. I happened to be on vacation that day. And everything went spotless. It was great. We did a partial ITSM implementation. And I ran that for about another year, at which point the company let me go. Don't know if it was financial or political or whatever. And frankly, I don't care, because within 3 weeks, I had a job offer from ServiceNow because I had just won the first Innovation of the Year award, which hangs proudly behind me at Knowledge 10. So I attended as a customer, made some wonderful networking opportunities there, which led to my job at ServiceNow. Been a technical consultant, been a solution consultant in pre-sales for a while, and for about the last 6, what year is it this year? 6 years? Been doing the developer advocacy evangelism role that way. So it was sort of a build-up. That's my career. There's also been the hobby stuff, which feeds in very nicely. We were talking before when the cameras were not rolling about podcasting and how that turned into the content creation arm of what I do.
So for everybody who's listening, I just want to say, can you please give us some hearts for Chuck Tomasi? Give him a heart. And if you could do me a favor, just let us know where you're coming from, what city, state. We'd like to know a little bit more about you guys. I wanted to ask you another question, Chuck. So backstage, right before we went on live, we were hearing this great story about how you got into podcasting. I was hoping you could share with the rest of the crowd, like, how did that all start? I believed it was because you wanted to share your knowledge. And within that story, I would love to hear about the bow tie. How did the bow tie come about? Was that always part of your thing, or just let us know how did that happen?
No, I'll start with the podcasting story. So it was 2004. I was working on a ticketing system, one of those disparate systems that I thought was going to die years ago. But funny enough, almost 40 years later, that app is still running at my old company. God bless them. Talk about your technical debt. But I was working on this one evening and listening to, I think it was Real Player or something, a show called Tech Talk with Ken Rakowski and Jeff Yablon, and they were going on. And they mentioned something about Engadget doing a podcast. And Engadget, the popular news website. And I looked into it and did a little searching and said, well, let's listen to a few. And I heard some people that are still my dear friends today. And I said, I want to get into this. I think I can do maybe just a modicum better. And oddly enough, don't be surprised if you have that attitude and you're not. It took some skill and some talent, but through refinement and polishing and meeting other people, building that network, building those friends, building the connections, getting some new ideas, some fresh ideas. I went live, I believe it was December 8th, 2004, and launched a second show May 1st, 2005, which is still running today. We do a show called Technorama that runs every Sunday night. Me and Craig Stepp, who I eventually got into ServiceNow. So it's this wonderful network of people and friends that turned into, just by creating that content and refining that skill, the presentation, the technical skills, a lot of stuff about program organization and finding inspiration in other podcasts and radio and media, going, what are they doing with lighting and what are they doing with sound and what are they doing with the show format? Is that a segment that I might want to be inspired by? That led to the content creation that I still do today as part of my job. So when I got to ServiceNow, it was almost a natural thing to say, hey, we should think about sharing this information. And long story short, TechNow was born out of those sharing sessions. We started them internally, and in February of 2013, we started our long-running webinar series called TechNow. Our latest one just went live today as we record this on August 11th. We did a webinar on August 3rd. I edited it up a little bit and published it there. We had record-breaking numbers on attendance. Biggest webinar the company's ever seen. Very honored and humbled that you all thought it was fascinating, and now it's publicly available. So taking the hobby to work and getting paid for it, I call that, that's the golden ticket. That's when you've won. They're paying me to do what I love. This is great. And I still get to keep that inner developer that's always been there since the early 80s satisfied. I was just writing some code and creating an app this morning on something. I said, you know what? This is pretty fun. So the technical skills are satiated. The learning and sharing is fun. And when you get asked to be on somebody else's show, it's a bonus. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I want to give a few shout outs. I see people that I see popping up. We got Terrence Dendy in here. We got Missile. We got Igor. Brian Mongol. Congratulations on the new job, Brian. I saw that post. Donald, Marcus, Anna, thank you guys all for showing. We got more people. I don't want to take up too much time, but we came up with a fun series of questions for you. These are rapid fire questions, and it's just not for Chuck. It's for everyone in the crowd. So first question, Mac or PC, Chuck? What are you using? Same with everybody in the crowd. Let us know what you guys are using.
What am I using right now? I'm
Yeah.
using mostly Mac, but that is not to say I am exclusive to one or the other. I've used iOS, I've used Android, I've used, it's whatever the tool set is that I need to get my job done as best as possible. So I've got no loyalty one way or the other. In all transparency, I do own some Apple stock, I guess, if that matters.
Second question, coffee or tea?
Tea. I became decaf at the end of the 90s, whatever it was, when my second child started drinking my coffee.
Yeah.
I started out decaf, and then I eventually went tea because my cardiologist said the caffeine's messing with you and causing you an AFib. So we took care of that.
Absolutely. Deontay, you got the next questions, man. I'm going to hand it over to you.
I don't think we got to the bow tie story yet, but keep that on your docket.
Yeah, we would love to hear that. So we're definitely going to swing back around to that one. We haven't got out of that one, man. I see everybody. I see more people saying PC. I see Mac out there. I want you guys to keep dropping your questions. Just want to do my part in thanking everybody for dropping in. Thanking you, Chuck, for being here. I see some questions in the chat, and I don't want to just skip over them. So we're going to go ahead and handle those questions in the chat first, and then we'll swing back around to my questions that I have for you. So we got Anna Davis says, hi, Chuck, your JavaScript videos help save me during my next gen professional training. Do you have any plans for more scripting videos?
Oh, great question. Actually, there are some plans because those were made in 2019. And obviously, I think it was Tokyo, we introduced the support for ECMAScript 2021 and beyond. So there's some capabilities that are not in those, arrow functions and map and filter and all this cool stuff that those bring to making the code a little bit more efficient, a little more protected, shall we say. So lots of functionality that we haven't explored that. I don't think it's going to be a whole nother 54 volume series, but it was engineered to be chapter like so that we can augment those chapters in the future. Same with the integration series. I'm sure we're not done innovating on integrations to make systems talk to other systems. So if you haven't checked those out, that's another one that we came out with in late 2021. I'm forgetting when I published stuff like that, but great question. Yes, there's more coming.
Nice. That's good to hear, man. We have another question from the chat. Keep dropping those questions in the chat, folks. Drop those cities if you haven't already. Make sure to answer our quick fire questions in the chat. We have another question here from Donald Jones. He says, good afternoon, Chuck. In your opinion, what are some things someone needs to bring to the table to have a great podcast?
First and foremost, passion for your topic. If you are into hermit crab racing, I'm throwing that out as a crazy, wild example, and you've got what you feel is sufficient content and passion to do hermit crab racing, great. Let's go make a hermit crab racing podcast. We used to say things like crocheting, but now there's a whole bunch of those. And it doesn't matter if there are a whole bunch. You're looking at somebody who started a Star Trek podcast in 2017 when there were already dozens and dozens and dozens of Star Trek podcasts. What you bring to that topic is uniquely you. So your passion, your insights, worry about the tech you can learn, but the passion you don't. So bring that passion, and then look at starting inexpensive, unless of course you're crazy and you won the lottery and you want to just spend some money on some tech. Come talk to me. I'll help you spend your money.
Most definitely. So keep dropping those questions, you guys. Oh, I see another one here from Julian. Shout out to you, Julian, man. Thanks for joining us in today. He says, hi, Chuck, where can we get detailed documentation? This is a little bit more technical, of course. Where can we get detailed documentation on the service portal, scope methods, SP modal form, etc.?
I can't recall the site offhand. I'm hoping somebody like Nathan Firth can. I would actually start at Nathan's site, New Rocket. I thought there was a subdomain or something, serviceportal.io, I want to say. If you look, they're there and they're very well documented. That's often where I ended up looking for mine. The other, if you've got questions or something isn't working quite as you expect, jump in the community. This is a shameless plug for servicenow.com/community, as well as sndevs.com. There's a Slack server out there with all kinds of channels, including ones for Service Portal.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that. And I definitely have, now I want to get into, I guess, a little bit of the technical questions. I definitely kind of want to steer away from a lot of the technical stuff. I know you do a lot of technical interviews.
Yeah, let's
But I'm
not turn this
definitely,
into how can I solve my daily problem today?
yeah, exactly. But I do have, a few for you. So how have you seen it? I know you've been around ServiceNow pretty much since the beginning. So how have you seen it kind of evolve from its early days to the present now? And are there any things that you can say like really stood out to you, or like, this is something that I really saw that they changed, or they did different and I like it?
Oh, that's a question I have not been asked, or at least not that quite that way. So we'll start with the changes that I've seen. When I started in 2008 as a customer, uh, the CEO, Fred Luddy, was still writing code. And I knew that going into it. I said, well, this is clearly a startup. Are we sure we want to base our enterprise on a startup? I was just looking for help desk ticketing software at the time, not recognizing that it was a full-blown platform. That didn't happen until closer when I became an employee and went, oh, I get it. I mean, literally, it was after I had written the loaner request system that got me the award. I thought I was just hacking the system in some way. I was like, look, I extended this table and I made a few fields and some workflows, and woohoo, we got ourselves an app to track our laptops. Everybody was happy. Then recognized this is a full-blown workflow package. It will handle many, many processes. And so there were a lot of changes that way. And of course, technologically, it's changed and evolved greatly. We've seen things come along like Service Portal and UI Builder and Workspaces, and going from the legacy workflow editor. That was brand new, by the way, when I started. They were touting that at my sysadmin training, which was taught by a professional services technical consultant. Back then, you either got Ian Brose or Carleen Greenlee, aka Carleen Carter now. And we just talked to her on our podcast. That's coming out later this month. So there wasn't even an official training department. In fact, I delivered a dozen or so of the sysadmin courses way back when. It was a different time. And I'm very excited and encouraged and humbled to be part of this rocket ride, to see these changes. There's still that kernel of customer focus, of passion, and you see it in full bloom. Community, when you see it in full bloom when you're at the Knowledge Conference, everybody is excited. It's kind of weird. It's almost like a cult, as Andy Ho would say. It's like, wait, we're at a software conference. People are supposed to be this happy. There's something odd here.
Yeah. So, man, that's crazy seeing, listening to that, especially from one of the people that were around from the beginning, man. And, seeing that most people, when you hear about ServiceNow and how it got started with ITSM, and that was kind of the base of it. And that's kind of how people look and really understand it when they first come to it. What are some kind of unexpected, apart from ITSM, I guess I said all that to say, apart from the ITSM, apart from the workflow optimization and things like that, is there anything unexpected or innovative that you've seen like ServiceNow be used for, in your career?
Things that I'd probably say the craziest examples are my own. The karaoke app that I built. No one's going to build a karaoke app on ServiceNow. I'm sorry, that's just not ever going to come up in the customer sphere. And now that I've said it, somebody would probably be looking for it. But I saw it as an opportunity to do something I was passionate about. I liked singing karaoke, and I was sick of searching YouTube for videos. So I said, I'm going to make something that goes out. I know how to do integrations. I know YouTube has REST APIs. So I'm going to import from a bunch of my favorite channels all their catalog of stuff. That turned into a bit of a project. It's like a living CMDB in a way, where you've got there's nightly changes. Every morning I wake up, there's another 20, 30, 40 videos that have been imported from YouTube. I go, okay, are the titles right? Is the data normalized? All this stuff that goes on from a process standpoint, a data management standpoint. But technically, it was a lot of fun. So I also built this past Knowledge. I had built a Family Feud game. We'd been playing a Jeopardy game that I built at our conferences for a couple of years, and people thought that was wonderful and fun. And somebody about this time last year said, we should do Family Feud. And I went, I can do that. Well, that turned into much more than just the software piece. I had that done in a couple of months. it got down to the hardware because I wanted that experience of smacking buttons and conflict resolution, so no two buttons were flashing at the same time. And my coworker Jason kept egging me on. He goes, I challenge you to make a custom printed circuit board for that. And I used experience for my last job because I used to support the electrical engineers and the printed circuit board engineers and the mechanical engineers. And I said, I think I've learned enough from them over 20 or so years that I could hack something together. And we had a full-blown custom hardware solution for that, built on parts I get off of Amazon. So it was a lot of fun, very innovative. And I turned that into customer stories and content. So if somebody wants to know about the record producer in service, or not record producer, record watch in Service Portal, very handy utility, by the way. So you can update your widget dynamically based on data changing on the server. Just saying, go check out Record Watch if you're a Service Portal junkie.
Just throwing it out there. Nice. That's definitely, different. Those are definitely different use cases. And if you ask me, that kind of shows the capability of the ServiceNow platform and, how important it is to, kind of experiment and go out and see those different capabilities so that you can, you never know, you may be able to apply that solution to, a business process or something like that.
The art of the possible. Yeah. And
exactly.
Everything's on the table. There are use cases that are not a good fit for the platform. Certainly if you're doing, genome sequencing, probably not on ServiceNow.
Yeah. There's definitely, a scope, but it's just very wide. When you first come in and you see ITSM, you hear about that. It's so wide. So I have some more questions from the chat I want to go ahead and throw up. I definitely want to shout out Kali for coming in, Philip Swan for coming in, Brian. I don't know if Alex already shouted these people out. Timothy Razo, thank you all for hopping in. Drop your cities if you haven't already. I know you guys just dropped in. We've had everybody drop their cities. So I definitely want you guys to fill up the chat with some cities, some gem emojis, because he's definitely dropping some gems here. We got the first question that I want to bring up. It's actually pretty interesting. It's from Mike Lane. Thanks, Mike, for dropping this in there. He said, hey, Chuck, talk about the interview process you went through with ServiceNow. Definitely different.
Oh, that's a bit of a maniacal laugh. I will say this was another exposure to an immature company at the time. So I had the story was I was at Knowledge 10, and through a handshake and a hello, I had met a couple of key people. So my career tip for anybody going to a conference like this is stick out your hand and say hello, swap business cards, and stay in touch. Okay, that's key to keeping your career alive, because you never know. A, when the axe is going to fall and you're going to be out of a job, and B, where your next opportunity is going to come from. So it could come hopefully before you get chopped. But I had met a couple of people there, and like I said, 10 days after going to Knowledge, I get back and I'm let go unexpectedly. So I was talking to one of the people. I literally went home at about 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, and I was calling a lady that I was going to show my loaner request app to her the next day. And I said, Gail, I've got to cancel our call. And the words out of her mouth were, what type of work are you looking for? And I went, holy doodles. I've been out of work for a whole hour and I've got a job lead already. This isn't just me. This is just, doing the right thing to keep your career alive. And I said, let me jot that down, Gail. Thank you for the offer. I'll keep in touch with you. 20 minutes later, I'm talking to another gentleman who is going to help us implement problem and change in the ITSM suite on ServiceNow. And he said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to call these 4 people. And he gave 3 of the names I already knew, small company at the time. And I said, okay, I'll call them up and let them know that I'm open to work. And that led to the interview process, which was rather interesting. I talked to, for whatever reason, when they got my resume, I thought I had implemented Incident and Knowledge and Catalog and a custom app. I thought I pretty much had this platform mastered for the time. Okay, there's pretty much Runbook, which later became, there was Discovery and there was ITSM. That was pretty much it at the time. And you could know the whole platform pretty quickly. They put me on the Discovery team. They were interviewing me for a Discovery position because of that vast experience that I had at my old company with networking and writing full stack apps. So I knew ports and protocols, and that was it. So I talked to There was one phone screening. I talked to Alec Lynn, who's still there. He's big in the ITOM space, particularly in the service watch. Did I say that right? Yes. Okay. Sorry. A lot of products have come along. I'm trying to keep them straight. He's still there, still keep in touch with him. And Tom Dilatush, who was originally like one of the key discovery programmers, the back-end guys who wrote the core of what our discovery product is. And 1 minute we were talking about ports and protocols. He said, what's the difference between TCP and UDP? And I explained it to him. I said, one's stateless and one's stateful. He says, explain it like a kindergartner would understand. So I did the old handshaking thing. And the next minute we're talking about, what was it? Punch cards and binary calculators or something. It was so off topic. It was crazy. And I went, after one phone screening, and then I get a job offer letter. Go, that was it. I'm not sure if I'm impressed or stunned or what's going on, but hey, I got a job offer.
Wow.
The interviewing process has gotten much better over the years, I'll assure you.
I would hope so. Yeah, for sure. I see we have the United Kingdom in the house. We got DC in the house. We got Canada in the house. We got Australia in the house. You know, we got Sydney out there, Sydney, Australia in the house. We got North Carolina.
Right.
You guys saw that. So nice. We got people from all over. Thank you guys for dropping in.
Good morning, Sydney.
We appreciate that. Yeah, definitely want to. So we have one more question that I see. You know, my colleagues definitely we all want to know. I'm sure everybody in the chat wants to know. So I'm gonna actually bring one of my colleagues up, Will, and I don't know if he's. So we're gonna have to wait before we bring him up, folks. But yeah, we definitely have a really funny question, really cool question. I want to get to that you obviously have started to answer. We got to circle back to that. So
all right,
I have one more kind of technical question, you know, for those peer apprentices, all those people out there that are new to ServiceNow, they're just hearing about it. I know you always have a couple in the chat that just, you know, kind of don't know, never heard about it. So really quickly, as we're kind of leaving the technical tip, could you just provide kind of a brief overview of like what is ServiceNow? What is the key features and why is this, are these new peer apprentices seeing ServiceNow, you know, and why is it valuable to businesses?
You know, that used to be the hardest question to answer was, what is ServiceNow? Fortunately, we've got a wonderful world-class marketing team that can help frame that up. And I have to see if I can get Bill McDermott's exact words here. It is the intelligent platform for end-to-end digital transformation. What does that mean to you and me? It means you make work better. It's giving that customer experience, the consumer experience that we have with hailing a ride or ordering something online to the enterprise. So when you're at work or you're interacting with your customers, whether it's external facing or internal facing, you've got the power to make that happen. You've got the capabilities to build those solutions. And this isn't like a 24-month thing to get from here to there. In some cases, it's hours. Like, oh, we've got visitors coming in the building all the time. And rather than writing a name in a book or recording it on a spreadsheet, let's get an app for that. So they sign in on an iPad and a badge gets printed automatically. And we know where they can go and when, who their escort is. And all of that can be tracked. It's a process. It's a workflow. So those are some of the examples. Obviously, we come with out of the box for employee workflows and customer workflows and IT work. I'm not calling them technology workflows because it goes beyond IT. So there's some pre-built solutions. And then there's creator workflows, which is more DIY. If you've got an opportunity, we can address it.
Yeah, I definitely love how you use a real world and practical kind of example with the badges and stuff like that. I feel like, you know, not a lot of people can break it down like that and kind of just, you know, break down the ITSM process and how it bettered that and then go into the workflows. So definitely appreciate how you broke that down there.
The occupational hazard with this job is anytime you're involved with this ecosystem, you start seeing opportunities everywhere. And it will drive you crazy when you see something done inefficiently that really needs to be digitized. Why doesn't your sales department know what your field service people are doing? I asked my cable company, when am I getting fiber? We don't know. Call sales. I asked sales. They said, well, we have to talk to our technical people. I said, I don't want to invest in your company because you don't talk to each other. You should be out there saying, this is the region we're going to be putting fiber to the curb. Get the salespeople out there 2 months ahead of time and bang on doors and get some people signed up so that when we drop it in, we've got customers. That's a great case for a cross-enterprise workflow.
Yeah, most definitely. You definitely start seeing pockets a little bit more. It's like when you have, like your parents have a certain car or something like that, or you have a certain car and you start to see that car more now because you have that car. That's exactly how it is, until it starts to bleed into like family processes and stuff. Then you got to kind of like chill and recuperate.
Coworker of mine ran his whole wedding planning on ServiceNow.
Wow. So I have a couple of quick fire questions, and then I definitely want to hand it back over to my buddy
Sure.
Alex. He has some more questions for you. So these are for the chat and for Chuck. So everybody get ready. We got some quick fire questions. Drop your answer in the chat. So are you an early bird or night owl?
Early bird, 100%. I'm up at 5 a.m., if not beforehand. I think one of my superpowers is, more of a pet peeve. My superpower is I can wake up a few minutes before the alarm goes off. In fact, I haven't had an alarm on my alarm clock in probably 15, 20 years because I hate that sound, and I will wake up right before it so I don't have to hear it.
Wow, that was a quick one. You had a pretty quick answer. Everybody drop your answers in the chat. Are you an early bird or night owl? Next quick fire question. Favorite ServiceNow feature off the top of your head?
Oh my, so many to choose from and so many new ones in the Vancouver release that just came out. I've always been partial to integrations. So Flow Designer and Integration Hub are in there. Scripted REST APIs are fun. Now we've got triggered REST flows. The generative AI stuff that's coming has my interest. So it's not on my favorite list yet, but I am watching it closely. I did a little bit of experimentation just prior to our Vancouver early access release, and I was playing around with the text to code, typing in a comment just to see if I could make something fairly complex, but and still get it right. So I said, give me all the active P1 incidents ordered by or grouped by assignment group and return an object. And I looked at the code and I went, dang, that's pretty solid. It didn't need any tweaking for me to have a working function that did that. So I'm really looking forward to exercising that a little bit more and seeing some of these other generative AI things coming out, like case summarization. Oh, that would have been so nice when I was running my help desk 10, 15 years ago.
So Chuck has a group of features that he finds as his favorite. I see. So not just one, but everybody else, drop your group.
Well, it's like asking for your favorite child. I can't pick a favorite feature. Can you?
Like a favorite color, right? So everybody drop your favorites in there. I see we got, by the way, I'm going back to that other question I just asked. I see we got a lot of early birds in here, and it's actually almost I see a win, almost a little bit tipping a little bit more towards early birds, but I see some night owls in here. So shout out to the early birds and the night owls out there. We have one more question. I definitely don't want to skip this one, or actually skip any of these. I'm actually seeing a couple. So we'll go ahead and start with Khalid's
I see
question
a good
here.
one in there. I see a good one. I hope you picked the one I'm looking at.
I see it. I got Khalid's question up here first. We definitely coming to all the questions. But how long did it take you to plan and film your series, Learn JavaScript on the Now platform?
Oh, I think from idea inception to actual release was at least 4 or 5 years. I knew it was needed when we started the scripting course in 2012, I believe it was. Might have been, yeah, I think that was it, because I helped write that one with Mary Ellen Djelski. And I said, wait, the prereq is that you already know JavaScript, but we don't offer any prerequisite to our scripting course. So the long-standing thing was, well, you go to Udemy and you go to Code Academy and you learn it. I said, but that's not ServiceNow JavaScript. It's just not the same. There's nuances, there's differences that I think most coders will pick up on and adapt. But I said, I want this to come from a place of, I don't know script. I was at many developer meetups over the years, and people were saying, I used to be the admin on a team of 3, and the 2 others were developers, and they both left. Now I'm the default developer. What do I do? So I wrote it for people in those situations that had an interest or had a need to become developers. It took me about, I don't know, 3-4 months to just put the outline together. And if you watch the videos, they're not scripted at all. They're outlined. So I just made sure that I hit the bullets that I wanted and then come up with the examples. I think Jason McKee, whom I spoke of before, he's the one who said, make it tell a story. It's hard to tie, variable names to objects and whatnot. So I did my best there, and eventually it started to coalesce at the end with a scripted REST API. So if you never thought you could write a scripted REST API, that's in the later chapters, 45 through 54, whatever it is. And there's actually a discontinuity in there. I filmed the first 18 of them in, I think it was December of 18 or January of 19. I think it was January of 19. And I got those done and then had to get to work on Knowledge 19. Just go heads down, and it's pretty intense and takes a lot of bandwidth, and I couldn't get back to my beloved JavaScript videos. And then I got back and I said, I sure hope nobody notices the difference between episode 18 and 19 because there's a 6-month gap in there. I don't have, grayer hair or anything, but it was a challenge. What shirt was I wearing? What background? Where's the same setups? Was the lighting okay? I'd love to redo that at some point, but I don't think it's practical today.
All right, Chuck. So I got a question for you. So
yes, sir.
From my last question, I think you're about to go into the bow tie story, and you were about to share that with us right before we were get on, and we wanted to save that story for everyone here. I haven't heard of it. I've been scouring all your YouTube videos. Haven't heard the bow tie story yet. Can you please share with us the bow tie story? How did that come about?
Someone's got to make a Wikipedia page for me or something. This would be on there. So the idea happened, I think it was Knowledge 13. We had one of our first dress codes. The employees were given black shirts. This was back when our logo had the power icon. It was red and white and black was the color scheme. You've probably seen it if you look at any material that's prior to 2017. So from 2012 to 2017, we had a certain brand scheme. And the rule was, we'll give you a black shirt, but we expect you to wear black slacks or skirt for the women, black shoes. We're going to look like a Johnny Cash convention or a funeral dirge. In concept, it makes it easy to spot the employees. Okay, where do you go to ask a question? You go to somebody wearing a black shirt and a red lanyard or whatever it was. Well, I come from a family of 9, and if you don't make yourself known, you're likely to get left at the zoo or the beach or something. So you got to stand out in some way. So I always wanted to bend the rule on this one if I could. My initial thought was, I know, I'll get a black kilt, and then the power icon will be the sporin. I went, I don't have the legs for a kilt, and I'm not wearing a kilt for all of Knowledge. So about 2 a.m. on a cold, frosty Wisconsin morning, I wake up and I go, I've got it. We lived in Wisconsin at the time, by the way. I'll wear a bow tie. It's got to be a custom bow tie, something of my own work. And I went, that's great. Woke up in the morning and go, now how am I going to execute on that? It became one of these adventure games where, in order to get the gold key, you got to kill the dragon. In order to kill the dragon, you got to get the magic spear. In order, you work your way backwards from it. And this was, how do I get a bow tie by Knowledge? So I needed to get, I looked up places that make bow ties. This lady says, yeah, I'll sew them if you can get the fabric. And the fabric place, we'll make the fabric if you can get the pattern. And the pattern place said, so I got my buddy who's more graphically inclined than I to get the pattern right. And we eventually went through a couple of iterations, but got the bow tie by Knowledge 13. So if you look at some of those early Tech Now videos, there wasn't a bow tie. That didn't come along until about May or June of 2013. And it wasn't intentional. It started out as an act of rebellion in a way, of a way to bend the rules, but it became a recognizable symbol. And I knew when I got to Knowledge 14 or 15, I was checking into the hotel and had my bag and standing in the waiting line, and people would say, hey, Chuck, where's your bow tie? What's in my suitcase, of course. So it became a recognizable thing. And I said, may have something here. Again, accidental career move, but it became a brand, a symbol that people recognized me for. And I leaned into it and went, let's have some fun with it. So that's the whole story. It still continues today. Now we've got stickers with bow ties and emojis with Chuck and bow ties, and you go to the Slack channel and there's several. The reaction icons are mockeries of me. So it's humbling and humorous at the same time. I'm all for it.
I'm all for it too. Everybody always refers to you, of course, by name, Chuck Tomasi, and or the bow tie guy or the JavaScript guy. That's kind of like your thing now. That's your wheelhouse.
As a nod or a tip of the hat, there are many other bow tie people in the world. One of my favorites is Bill Nye, the science guy, and of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the recently departed Pee Wee Herman, who's known for his little red bow tie as well. But it gets expensive because every time they change the company colors, I got to go get new ties. I think I'm on my the red ones. And then I had the multi-green ones, which were a gift from a very generous customer here in Phoenix. He said, Chuck, you really need a branded bow tie again. Because I was getting some generic colors, kind of like what I'm wearing today. It's dark blue. And he said, I want to get you something with the ServiceNow logo. He sent me 3 bow ties, custom-made bow ties. And I said, Eric, where did you get that? And then when we changed again in early 2022, I went and got more from the same company because it was just so much easier than it was in 2013. I could upload an image and order and they show up. So, and much cheaper.
We all love the bow tie. I want to give a couple more shout outs. So I think Down 30 shouted out. I think Phil Swan's with us. Collie, what's up, Collie? And we have some other heavy hitters. I saw Corey Wesley pop in here. Thanks for joining the story. Yeah, so I did have make it a little bit lighter now. I was perusing again, doing my research on you, man. I ran across a couple of YouTube videos, and there's this one YouTube video with this guy that looks just like you. He's up on stage and he's singing, so it sounds like you're a karaoke aficionado. And my question to you is, if you could relate your tech journey to a karaoke song, which one would it be?
Oh my goodness, that's an incredible question, and I don't have an instant answer for you.
I'll let you chew on it. I'll go.
I've got a playlist of about 800 songs. Dream On by Aerosmith comes up. He talks about his journey, and every day he's getting a little older, and the Don't Stop Believing by Journey. Although the lyrics of that kind of go all over the place, but the central theme of Don't Stop Believing would be a good one. So yeah, that's an intriguing question. I'll have to think a little harder about that one.
I got another one for you. So this one is, what trends or emerging technologies do you believe will have a significant impact on the future of ServiceNow? And
we mentioned the generative AI stuff earlier, and I truly believe that's going to be a wonderful complement. Sort of like when we first got machine learning about 5 years ago or so, that helped with the categorization and the prioritization. You apply these machine learning models. This takes that to a whole nother level of assisting. I'm not an advocate that says, generative AI is going to put people out of business. No, it's going to enable more people, because as we look at how the trend towards low code has gone, and some of the pro coders may have mixed emotions about that, going, I'm not a big fan of low code. I am. If there's a way to make my job easier and faster and get me to a solution quicker, plus hand it off to somebody who doesn't know a whole lot about this stuff, sign me up. Because I like to build and innovate. I don't like to maintain my stuff that I did 10 years ago. The generative AI is going to be one of those accelerators to get new people into the ecosystem, get new, dare I say it, citizen developers enabled quicker without having to learn a whole bunch of ins and outs of the platform and table structures. And this is when you apply the logic. A guided tour concept is great, but there's still some prequel knowledge. If you can walk up and write your description of what you're looking for, and it puts together the skeleton framework, and then you can start modifying on top of that, that's a whole new game.
Got a question from the crowd, if it's okay with you. This is coming from one of our apprentices, actually, Komen Julan.
That's the one. I was looking at that one earlier. Go ahead and read it.
Your achievements inspire many, but we all face setbacks. Can you share a setback you encountered and the strategy you used to bounce back stronger?
Absolutely. In fact, I was just talking about this with my coworker Lauren as we were talking about our podcast and adapting. We mentioned earlier taking your podcast and evolving it over time. And one of the new questions we want to add to our setup after talking to Carlene, we said, "Oh, we should ask people, what's your biggest career oops? Something you thought you were going to get fired over, and what happened? What was the outcome of that?" So along that line. Yeah, I've had setbacks. I've had projects that didn't go the way I wanted, and some feedback that wasn't up to snuff. But I don't dwell on it. I look at it as an opportunity. Sure, it hurts. There's a ding to the emotional going. I'm getting a little crabby mood for about a half a day, and they go, all right, pull up your pants, and what are you going to do about it? What did you learn? What's the outcome? Echoes of my dad's voice when something didn't go quite right. It's like, all right, what did we learn from this, and how could we make ourselves better? So one of the classics in my, it doesn't appear on my resume, but it's but if somebody were to ask me about a setback or a career faux pas, I was a Unix system administrator at the time for the company I previously worked with. This was probably 89, 1990, maybe 1991. And one of the things that Unix system administrators do is backups. You got to make sure all your data is backed up. We had a series of manufacturing test equipment running on HP's version of Unix called HPUX. And they talked to each other through a network protocol called NFS, so they could share files among these testers. Well, I was doing the backups like a diligent admin and didn't realize at the time that root, or the admin or super user account, was not respected, was not recognized across NFS backups. So what I thought I was backing up was not backing up entirely unless permissions for everybody was open, and they were not. So of course, it wasn't a disaster. I think it was more of an upgrade. We had to, one of the upgrades from whatever it was, HPUX 7 to 7.5 or something, they said, back up all your data, reformat the drive, reload the operating system, and then reload your data. Well, that last step was enlightening because all of the data did not come back. And I was told later that the data loss was to the tune of $750,000 worth of labor to build those tests that were lost. We went back into the archives and found some older copies of much of this, but it was still about $250,000 of lost labor. I felt terrible, thought I was going to get fired, but if you're going to make mistakes in your career, make them early. That's all I got to say. And I was not fired. Instead, I was put in charge of backups for about the next 10 years. and I learned a lot about archiving and cataloging and software evaluation. So there was a great learning experience out of that. But typical disaster recovery stuff. If you're making backups, test them once in a while.
So we got another question coming in. This is from another one of our apprentices. His name is Mike Lang. He's asking, Chuck, can you talk about your game portal that you have on GitHub?
My game portal. Someone must have been perusing my repo. It's sort of an umbrella for some of these games. I mentioned Jeopardy and Family Feud, and I think our local Phoenix developer meetup group was even working on a ServiceNow version, a service portal version of Wordle. And only it didn't take just 6-letter words. It was any words you wanted to put it together in a list. So we were getting a collection of these games on various instances, and I put them all together on one and set up a production instance, set up a dev instance, and then put an overarching framework on it. The idea was that people could log in and play some of these games on their own. I didn't quite get that far, but the game portal itself is sort of, hey, do you want to play Jeopardy? Click the Jeopardy button. Do you want to play Family Feud? Click the Family Feud button. So it's a very light service portal launch pad with records, of course. If I get a new game, I create a new record. We may be doing trivia at some upcoming events, so that one may be joining the collection on those instances as well.
Nice. Got another fire question here.
Sure.
Rapid fire. So, best book that you've read recently?
I am in the process of, I'm more of an audiobook person because I get tired when I read. It's really challenging to get me through college back in the day before we had ebooks and whatnot. But I prefer audiobooks, and I am re-listening to a classic by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's probably been 20 years since I went through this before, but I had it on Audible. I don't know if it was when I had a subscription to it for years. And I went, what can I listen to again between podcasts? So that's a great one. Always something to take away. In fact, I articulated, I went into my tablet and I wrote down every one of them so it's stickier in the brain as I go forward. And now I'm challenging myself every day to not violate one of those or enhance them. Be lavish in your praise and hearty in your approbation. Give people compliments is what that says. Have I done that today? Check. Let's go. Do not condemn, criticize, or the third word starts with a C, but it's along those same lines. Like, don't be so negative. Start with a happy attitude. So lots of great information out of that. If you haven't read it, it's a bit old. I think it's like in the 50s. There's a lot of examples around the oil barons and the railroad barons and whatnot. They knew how to get their stuff done. They knew how to win friends and influence people. So great book.
Nice. So we got another question. Well, actually, I guess, we'll give you guys some time to drop some questions in the chat. I actually have a question for you, Chuck. It is, can you share kind of the experience from, one of the more memorable experiences that you've had at like a ServiceNow conference or event where you've spoken, and I should say maybe like your favorite one, and like what value did you take away from that?
I think my favorite one is always the latest one. They just keep getting better. A lot of people say their favorite one is their first one because it's so eye-opening. And while that was true, back in Knowledge 10 was a bit different experience. There were only 500 total attendees of that. The vendor hall was 4 tables, like 4 card tables in the hall. It was rather comical. But Knowledge 23 back in Vegas was something special. It was big. It was a single event. Everybody was there. It wasn't like, I can't make it to Vegas, so I'm going to go to New York. It was very special. I feel very humbled and honored to have been able to deliver the CreatorCon keynote with Lauren McManaman and the project managers up there. Very good learning experience for her, for me. We've got some takeaways that we're going to implement for Knowledge 24. Already planning, already looking forward to that. We've got some ideas. There's a Vancouver event coming up September 20th in Vancouver. So we're going to launch Vancouver from Vancouver, and feel honored once again. They said, we need a CreatorCon keynote-like experience for this. So they asked Lauren and me to co-MC it. I said, well, that's about as CreatorCon-like as you can get if you repeat the MCs. So a lot of fun. Memorable experiences, just getting to meet all the people. I remember I was standing, Bill McDermott's keynote was about to start that first day, and I was out in the hall watching just like this freeway, the 16-lane freeway of people walk by. And, me being the smart aleck that I am, I go, I'm going to have some fun with these people. So about every 30 seconds, because you get a new audience in front of you, I'd release the line, hey, thank you for coming this way to the timeshare seminar. Some people would laugh and then they move on, and I address the next 50 people in the next group. Anyway, when that was between the selfies, because people were like jumping. Whoop, I get so excited I hit my microphone. People would jump out of line and they go, oh, can I get a selfie? And that would turn into like sharks around a carcass, because they were, as soon as one person does that, it's 30 minutes of that. So just the interaction with the people was very special. A bit challenging at times if I needed to go to the restroom, but that's something we can solve later.
Nice. So the collaboration aspect is huge. And speaking of that, I know there's a lot of people new to the ServiceNow community, new to, I know they've heard about the ServiceNow community as in like, the site, the actual community, the forums. But what advice would you give somebody to kind of get that head start and like really get themselves out there in ServiceNow, and not even just ServiceNow. I guess just, I know this just how you were just benefited you when you just, you kind of had your networking, you had everything there already. So I would just say, what kind of advice would you give somebody else that's kind of coming into the corporate world and how to get themselves out there?
That's a lot to unpack. There's probably another 2 hours worth of live stream right there.
Oh yeah.
If you're just starting out, first learn all you can, follow your passion, be broad in your experimentation, shall we say, or as you learn a little about a lot of things. It's like when I was a kid, my parents exposed me to music and to some sports, and you'll find what you gravitate to on the platform. For me, it was things like integrations and custom applications. For you, it might be UI UX stuff or the Gen AI thing. So you'll find what interests you, and then you can dive deep into that. A lot of people call this the T-shaped employee. You know a little bit about a lot, but you've got definitely, there goes the microphone again, you've got a depth to certain aspects of it that you become the recognized expert. As you do that, even as you're learning about some of these broader topics, as you do that, share what you've learned in the community, whether it's a simple blog, even as just starting out with notes. That's the way I started a lot of my content when I was early in ServiceNow, is I'd write down these hot little tips in Evernote. Hey, this is a great system property to know about to increase the timeout, or this is a CSS property to change this thing. You just keep tabs of those, and then you get this library, and you can begin to share that in the community setting, whether it's through blog or podcast or whatever. And I'm seeing a whole bunch of videos coming out right now on this guy's got some YouTube shorts that say, hey, did you know if you do this, you can cancel all your transactions? Well, I did, but a lot of people don't, and that's a great way to do it. So you don't have to have, a multi-$1,000 studio to do these things, to share with people. You can start by collecting early. When you start sharing yourself online like that, you will then get recognized, and that's really where you start to build your network. And the network is your most valuable thing. And I will say that as you build that network, be sure to maintain that network. It doesn't matter if you have 500,000 followers. If you're not keeping in touch with them, it's sort of like you're not really in touch with any of them. So relationships decay over time. So pay attention to those people you've known for years and years, as well as those new acquaintances you just got at the last conference.
Yeah, most definitely. I have a couple more questions from the chat that I want to throw up there, and then I actually have a quick fire question that I'm going to throw at you real quick before I let Alex up. And I think we actually have another quick fire question in the chat from Mike Lane, so we'll throw that up after. But the first question I want to go ahead and throw up here is from Donald Jones, one of our own apprentices. He says, how would you go about finding your own niche in ServiceNow?
I think I touched on that a little bit. It's as you learn a lot about a little, go explore. Is it virtual agent? Is it integrations? Is it flow designer? There's something that will catch your eye. It's a bit like music. Like, sure, I listen to a lot of music, but I got a couple genres that are just, they're my jam. That's what I will go to when I want to work out, or when I want to relax, or even sleep. I've got music playing while I sleep. Little FYI there that we probably didn't need, but as you explore more of the platform, and there's lots to explore. Oh my gosh, it could be business specific, like I am the HRSD expert, or I am the customer service management expert. You're going to discover something that trips your trigger and go, I really want to learn more about that. Much like when I was back in the 80s, staying after school, typing in the programs in the book. You keep your radar on, and you're going to recognize it. You're going to go, that's it. This is starting to get fun. I really enjoy doing this. I'm staying after school, or I'm working after hours, or staying up late after the family goes to bed, and exploring more of this, taking that next online course, or writing a blog about it. That's your jam.
Most definitely. So just get out there and explore. Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. We have another question from the chat really quickly, and then I'll throw up my quick fire and hand it over to my bud Alex. This one is from Terrence. He says, Chuck, can you briefly explain some of the obstacles you encounter creating that Family Feud game, like how each round differs from the other you touched on at the dev meetup?
Oh my goodness. Yes, there were some challenges to that. The first was I challenged myself to use GraphQL rather than a traditional REST API. Part of that was because this was my fun project to fix a work project that I had to learn GraphQL. I said, well, if I'm going to screw it up, I'm going to screw it up on my terms rather than on something that's driving our developer advocacy program. We had integration to meetup.com. They changed from REST to GraphQL. We missed the memo, so we had to go back and fix that. I said, well, if I'm going to learn GraphQL, I'm going to force myself to implement Family Feud with Service Portal, making GraphQL calls. And that was one challenge. I had to get through that learning curve, and some of the challenges about how do I make it easy to maintain, as well as easy to extend and build, and so on and so forth. So learned a couple of tricks about the platform that probably too in depth to share here. But GraphQL was one of them. The hardware thing was also a good challenge. That was a nice obstacle that Jason threw me, because my original design was big and bulky and expensive, and we cut that down to a very inexpensive thing that somebody could replicate. My ultimate goal, I'm about halfway there, is to publish all of the Arduino code, all of the 3D CAD files, everything you need to build your own buttons. And if you want, you can hook it up to ServiceNow with the aid of a Raspberry Pi. So it's modular. If you just want buttons that go bash, 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 I'll send you the Gerber file so you can get your own PCB made, and the parts list to stuff parts in there. That's coming. I just got to carve out some time to do it.
Nice. That is interesting. That is definitely interesting. So I guess I'll just throw out my quick fire questions and then hand it over to my bud Alex. One of mine that I found was interesting was if you can invite any ServiceNow or tech figure, prominent tech figure to a karaoke night, and it could be living or historical, who would it be?
Are we talking about ServiceNow people to this karaoke party, or anybody?
Any historical tech figure, anybody.
I wouldn't want to make it anybody famous, but say, hey, let's, get Freddie Mercury and we'll sing Bohemian Rhapsody, because then I'd be intimidated. I'm not a professional singer.
So let's say somebody in your scope. In
my scope, I would get a bunch of my work friends together. We have a lot of really talented people at ServiceNow. We have an in-house band called Z-Boot, which, if those of you that know what that term means will get the joke. It's the script you run to reset an instance is called Z-Boot. Little known fact, the reason it's called Z-Boot instead of boot or reboot is because they wanted it at the very end of the list of scripts on the instance, so it wouldn't accidentally get run. We could have a ServiceNow folklore podcast at some point. I've contemplated that one as well too. But I would get our group together. We've got people like Mercedes Scalzetti. She does a better Robert Plant than Robert Plant, in my opinion. And just some wonderful, wonderful talent. That was actually where my karaoke passion got lit, was at our sales kickoff in 2019. Watching some of these people on stage, like, wow, these people can rock it. And I think that would be fun, just to get together we do this at Knowledge. We do this at we may do this at other events before the next Knowledge. I'm trying to squeeze this into certain places. So it's open to the public. If anybody wants to just like sing in their own living room, you can do that. This instance is available to the public. Shameless plug, devlink.sn/karaoke. Go have some fun. You don't have to be a good singer. You can when the family's gone, log into the instance and just start clicking some songs and play around. You may get addicted like I did.
I just want to throw this proposition out here. This is from one of our apprentices, Ariana Davis. ServiceNow karaoke meetup in San Diego. You're welcome to come down and visit us down here in San Diego. I know you're.
I would love to. I have been a long time absent from San Diego. I used to go there on a quarterly basis. Not so much in the last several years, and I'm looking for an excuse. That might be it.
Nice.
We got you on the hook now. We got you on the hook. We're going to set it up, Chuck, and we're going to invite you down.
Let's do that. Let's
really
just
appreciate
pick a
you joining.
date. That's all it takes is for somebody to pick a date and go, all right, when are you available? It gets a little sketchy certain times a year.
We're going to talk to Mike. We're going to talk to Mike because we got 2 offices, and we're going to pick one, and we're going to make a karaoke party, and Chuck's going to be the star. Yes.
I got some new equipment that'll make that happen.
Chuck, you already spent an hour with us. Thank you so much, being a good sport, spending so
My
much
pleasure.
time with us on your Friday. Thank you so much for what you do to for the community. I mean, everybody knows who you are, and if you don't know who Chuck is, shame on you. Only joking, but definitely go out there on LinkedIn and connect with Chuck Tomasi, the godfather of ServiceNow. Deontay, any last words?
Yeah, definitely a huge developer resource and just a resource all around for anybody who, you know, is just looking to level up. You're just a beacon of knowledge, man, and energy. I definitely want to appreciate, express my appreciation for having you on this live. You know, for you joining in with us. It's definitely over an hour. Alex just said that, and it just kind of made me look at it, and I'm like, oh wow, man. So I definitely
Time
appreciate
flies
you
when you're having fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has been fun. And I invite anyone who's watching this, consider yourself. This is not something exclusive that only a certain type of people can do. Is get involved with the community, look around, start assess like any other online community, check what people are doing. Is this something I could potentially answer? Is this something I could learn from? So get that, and every once in a while you go, hey, I can contribute here. I've seen this before. As your experience grows out, even if it's very limited experience, you've got experience that you can contribute to the community. As you've learned something, a new tip or trick, share that, and you'll start to broaden this out. And if it turns into, you know, a multi-$1,000 studio in your house, well, that's your fault. Don't blame me.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Chuck, thank you so much. Deontay, last words.
No, that's it. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody, though, for joining in, you know, from all around the U.S., all around the world. We have people from Australia, all different countries. So thank you, everybody, for bringing in your energy. We will see you guys next Friday at 3 p.m.
Bye, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend.